Welcome to this special edition of the Zaleski Sports Show. This is the 2026 Boys Basketball Coaches Seed Show. Jason Zaleski here, Dan Ross to my left. And before we get to the coaches, I will tell you all of the number one seeds for this year's playoff field on seed math that is known to us here at Zaleski Sports and certain people in Stevens Point. Starting in Division 1, Wisconsin Lutheran, no surprise there. The Vikings are the number one in Division 1. In Division 2, it's New Berlin West, the number one seed overall in Division 2. In Division 3, it's the Freedom Irish leading the pack. In Division 4, Kewanee is your number one. And in Division 5, the Reedsville Panthers are the top cat in Division 5. Dan Ross, this is a pretty exciting playoff field here in 2026.
Yeah, we just watched the seed show. I think that the host did a really good job. Maybe their best one yet. We've had 2 or 3 of these, and I think it gets better. I mean, we went from a bouncing basketball with repeated music to like having an actual bracket reveal now. So I like that a lot more. There's a lot of intrigue in some of these brackets. You mentioned Wisconsin Lutheran, the number one in the entire state of Wisconsin. But we're going to have the opportunity to ask West Allis Central coach a whole bunch of questions about that and how he feels about having to potentially play them in sectional final.
All right, Dan, let's look at a couple of case studies. We've got a pretty busy show today. Again, we've got coaches Matt Lindsey, Chris Fischer, Jake Schalow, Ryan Bowers, Joe Konieczny, Alex Lavine, Dave Mlachnik, Rick Storlie, Adam Jacobson, Ron Prochnow. These are number ones. These are conference champions. We got a locked and loaded show, all the best coaches in the state of Wisconsin. A couple of case studies. I mentioned Joe Konieczny of Columbus, and they're the 2 seed. Loyal's the 1. It's an interesting one for me, and maybe the audience will like this one. It helps to understand how the math gets the seeds and how we get to where we are. Take a look at Columbus Catholic. They're the 2 seed. The 2 split during the season. A couple more losses for Columbus Catholic, although their strength of schedule is better. So it's a really interesting one. Columbus Catholic had an opponent win-loss record of 119-87. Loyal's opponent win-loss record 83-114. So those couple of extra wins for Loyal did just the trick to get them the 1 seed.
Yeah, and that really does matter sometimes, right? So you obviously want to play good teams, you want to beat good teams, but win percentage is a big part of that. And Columbus did play a little bit tougher of a schedule, I think. So it should be close. They ended up being close. And given the way that both of those 2 games occurred through the regular season, I'm really hoping to see them one more time on sectional Thursday.
Yep, that's definitely the possibility. It's if chalk holds, that's where they're headed. By our math, if Columbus Catholic would have got just 3 more wins out of hundreds, right? We're talking about hundreds of games played. If they would have got 3 more wins from their opponents, they'd be the 1 seed. A little difference. Both teams feel pretty comfortable about their half section and getting through it. But you look at Nakusa with 4 wins, Rice Lake with 5 wins, Living Word Lutheran with 11, Assumption with 13. Just any of those teams, Dan, would have got 3 more wins. We'd be talking a little differently today about that. The other case study here, as the week began, and you and I, and by the way, Michael Emlet puts all this math together. And congratulations, Mike, on another fine performance of this. Mosinee, as the week started, now we look at this like a race car, like a car race, and it's not, but we can see them coming down to the finish line as the season progresses, and it's not like that. I just want to make sure we're crystal clear on that. It is the whole season to this point, and then it's just that data that's put in all at once, and then the seeds come out of that. But looking at it like a car race, which is how I prefer to look at it, when Mosinee started the week, Dan, they were the number 1 seed in their half section. But a loss to DC Everest and a loss to Nicolay, they go from 1 to 3. Just really interesting how the season finished, and we'll talk to Matt Lindsey coming up here in just a couple minutes.
Yeah, and those are good losses. Those are losses to really good teams that are going to propel Mosinee into the postseason, and they have a fairly difficult path, I would say. Division three is always going to be a little bit tough anyway. Going back to the Columbus Loyal
Yeah, please.
matchup real quick. Um, they are the 1-2s. That makes a lot of sense. But Loyal's path through regionals, where you're going to get likely the seeds hold up, you're going to get the winner of, was it Mellon and Rib Lake? Is that who ended up
That's right. The 4 and the 5.
4-5?
Correct.
Yeah, that is a little bit easier path than the Dons likely having to play Prentice.
Your Buccaneers.
Prentice is a really good team. So, the matter of just a win or two here and there is the difference between a much easier regional final. Both teams are going to be the favorites in that game. And if you're a coach, you want to have the easiest path that you can. But I think it's interesting that it's just kind of fate how it all kind of lines up this way, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, and Columbus also, if chalk holds, will take on a surging Athens Blue Jays team as
Yeah.
well. So, yeah, the difference between the one and the two are the difference in your opponent quality come playoff time, to your point. Another one that people are talking about, at least in central Wisconsin, maybe in the rest of the state, they don't give two hoots about this, but some of these questions they find their way to me. DC Everest and Marshfield, just comparing the two, the 1 seed DC Everest, the 3 seed Marshfield Tigers. Again, everybody there in the top four, Kaukauna and Appleton North, the 4 and the 2 respectively, all gets, should they win on that Friday night, get a home regional final game. But again, that who you play then in that next round is a lot to do with what your seed is. DC Everest, a much better win percentage than Marshfield, 913 compared to 864. Yet strength of schedule, Dan, Marshfield opponents a 510 win percent, DC Everest opponents a 491, including Merrill and your Lakeland Thunderbirds.
Yeah. And yeah, Lakeland boys not that good this year. I don't know what they ended up in Division Two, probably a 7, 8, 9, something in there. Um, but I have been taking a lot of questions today about what I think about this sectional, right? And we aren't in the prediction markets here, right? We don't have, I don't have a favorite team in this bracket. I like to see local teams do well, the teams that we cover and the teams that our sponsors are in love with because it helps us. Um, but I don't know if there's a more wide open sectional than this one.
Division 1, Section 1.
Division one, section one, I think that any from 1 through 9 could win this. I really think that.
Mm,
Because DC Everest, they're going to get probably the winner of Hudson Nina. That's not an easy game, right? That is not an easy, I guess that'd be a regional final, right?
that's right. All right, right.
Yeah, so you got Everest, you have Marshfield, Kaukauna, Kimberly, Appleton North. Who knows about Superior, right? There's just a lot of teams that I think you could convince me that they have a good shot. And there's most of the other brackets, it's 1, 2, maybe 3 teams, but this one has a bunch.
Yeah, and all the teams have played each other. These are all Wisconsin Valley and Fox Valley teams. They
Yep.
know each other like the back of their hand. Any given night, all those crazy things, right? Throw the records out when these two get together, but you might have to this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm excited to finally start playing some tournament games. We've been talking about it for months.
Let's get ready to rumble. Um, the other one that the show that preceded us talked about, and this we hear this from a lot of people, and I think it's the old thinking is still prevailing, and the adaptation to this new system is still been kind of slow to accept. I don't think people are denying that the system exists, but the complaints that we see online, or the war of words and the keyboard warriors and all that, and even again the talk on the show that preceded us, just slow to adapt to it is probably the best way to that I have to categorize it. Freedom and Seymour, and these are our Division Three teams that are Freedom. Is the number one that we just talked about a minute ago in Division Three, but Seymour right behind them by less than a hair on the math, and the show that preceded us, well, I've seen both the teams play. This one, Seymour looks much better. They're undefeated on the season. I can't believe they didn't get the one. I'm summarizing, but that's essentially how it went. Wait, here's the stats. Freedom has one loss. Seymour has none. So a statistical dead heat on when you have a whole 22, 23 games of math to sort out. That's a statistical dead heat. And so the tiebreak goes like this. Freedom's strength of schedule looks like this. So the teams that Freedom played carry a 523 win percent. The teams they beat, 517, compared to Seymour 480 and 472. So when you look at it in the way that the math is designed to situate these teams, it's pretty easy to explain.
Yeah, and I think on the seed selection show, I think they did a really good job.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
obviously Mark knows more about high school basketball this year than I know about any high school basketball in the state at all, ever in
Yes,
my life.
yes, same.
Um, yeah, and I think Travis did a good job on the show as well. And they do have an interesting perspective, which you kind of alluded to, in that they think that there are low seeded teams that are seeded too low because they play up a division or two in their conference, right? They're a 7 seed. It doesn't really make sense because I think they might be the best team. Well, yeah, they might be the best team, but the math of the way that the Coaches Association came up with what the formula is implemented by the WAA says that they're not. They're a 7 seed. So, yeah, I think there is some old thinking still around about that. And it's always going to be that way. The two of us have seen a lot of teams play this year,
Yeah.
and and there are people in the stands, and they follow this, and they know that there's some teams that are a 2 or a 3, and you kind of know that, like, yeah, I mean, they were fortunate to be where they are, but they're probably not making it to Madison. And then there's other brackets where you have a 6 seed or an 8 seed, and you think they have a shot at this, right? So yeah, I mean, there's going to be old thinking, and we're in a new era now.
Well, and speaking of a new era, we bring in our first guest as we begin this new era of the show. He's the chief Indian over in Mosinee. He's Matt Lindsey. Coach, congratulations on another really good season. We just talked about your team a bit ago. I'll recap it like this. When we look at the 3 seed, at the start of the week, if we were looking at this like a car race, and I said just before, and I'll say it to you, it's not. It's the whole season, and then we put it all in, and then we take it out all on Saturday night, the last night, as it turns out. But we get to see those numbers, and we see it as a car race. When you began the week, you were the 1 seed, but a loss to Everest and then a loss to Nicolay, two high quality teams you put on your schedule. You end up as the 3. So let's start with that. Just talk about how you put that non-conference schedule together to prepare your team come playoff time.
Yeah, that's big for us. We're looking to put it together the biggest and best non-conference schedule that we can put together every year. I want to say that my first year, having a 20-win season in that first year, definitely got a lot of other people to come knocking on our door asking us to play them, which has been really great for us. That was when Brilliant jumped on board, wanting to play us every year. Us constantly trying to want to play a bunch of the Valley schools that are, Division One, constantly pushing us to be better, like with Everest that we had this week. And then, we've always tried to play at least one Milwaukee school every year, just playing a different style of basketball, playing against it than what we're used to playing here in the Northwoods. And this year, we were lucky enough that one of my former assistants, his dad is the head coach at Nicolay. They were missing a game, and so were we. So we were able to get that set up for this last Saturday. A great battle. Just ended up losing by 6 in the end. Just like we say, lost by 6 as well this week to DC Everest. But that non-conference schedule to us is everything.
Since you came to Mosinee, you and your boys always put on a really good show. You fill the seats. You give the fans all kinds of stuff to cheer about. Just talk about your time in Mosinee with that in regard about just putting on a really good show, having a high-performing team year in and year out.
Yeah, that starts with our youth. We get them going in kindergarten with our little dribblers, and we constantly continue to build them up throughout the time frame from there on. We start with some 3-on-3 from there as well, and then we morph into 5-on-5 by the time they hit third grade, fourth grade, and we really get them rolling from there. Try to spend time with all of my youth coaches on creating basketball players, players that can play basketball versus run plays. We really want them to be well-rounded individuals because we always say that the defense should always be wrong, but the only way the defense is wrong is if you know what the next thing to do is. If they take something away, what is the counter to that? And so we spent a lot of time on that at our high school level as well within our youth level. So that way, when we have a freshman that's good enough that can step onto varsity, we want them to have the basics of our offensive scheme already under their belt and ready to go, so they can just step into whatever team that they might be reaching within that year.
Dan Ross, I know you cheer for Mosinee from time to time, except when they're playing marathon.
Or Lakeland, as it came from Lakeland. Yeah, I have a couple of questions, Coach.
Yeah.
Two of them. And first, more of an observation, right? We don't have very many local Division III teams here. It's just the way that the geography and the school enrollment kind of shakes out. And I'm sure you'd rather be Division III than Division II like the other great Northern teams, which I wouldn't blame you for at all. But looking through the bracket, you have teams that stretch out the entire 2/3 of the state, I would say, just in your regional, let alone the other half. What kind of challenge does that give you and your coaching staff on trying to keep up with what's going on?
That's always a good question, and we're always trying to keep on, with what's going on everywhere. We're looking every night at scores and seeing what's happening, especially when this summer we found out what our sectional was going to be, which we for sure thought, as you said, D3 schools, not many in our area. Closest ones being two conference teams in Northland Pines and Tomahawk, and then Wittenberg. We figured we'd be in their sectional with them, and we'd be playing, Xavier and Little Chute and oh boy, Freedom and all of them. And we actually got pushed west, so that was kind of a shock to us right off the bat, which made us have to start looking at things a little differently. Because we're playing, Seymour's and everybody that's over that way that we figured we'd be playing in Division III. That was part of our non-conference schedule building, was understanding that we'd probably be going that way. And we knew for a couple of years that we'd be going to Division III. Our enrollment had just been dropping, and we were close to that 600 level already prior to that. So we knew three was coming. So we've tried to, find those powerhouses in Division III for that non-conference, which has meant we've had to travel. So even being in the Great Northern, finally with Merrill coming in, we have a one conference opponent that's not an hour one-way drive, just even in the conference. So that's been, we're used to kind of making those road trips. And last night's was a 2-hour and 45-minute drive one way. We do that on purpose. We want our guys to understand, like last year, it was kind of tough getting off the bus and going to play on Alaska in that regional final. Driving all the way from Mosinee across the state in the one day. So we just try to schedule things in order to make our guys understand we can compete and we can go do those things against perennial powerhouses year in and year out.
Yeah, and this is more of an observation. I have seen your team play in person twice and on Zaleski Sports several times. I've seen Gail Ettrick-Trempolo play. I've not seen Altoona. I've seen Stanley Boyd a couple times. I've seen Adams Friendship. I think your team stacks up really well with these teams because you have the size. What do you think you bring to a matchup against a team that probably hasn't seen a lot from you? What do you think you take an advantage into that fight?
I think you talk about it. You just said it right there. I think that's when the tricky part for Marathon, the couple of years with us as well, is we match up size wise with them, even when they've had, Grant Warren. I think he was listed as like 6'7". But we just match up because we bring a lot of height. We got a lot of guys in our program that are 6'3" and above. And we got more coming up in our program as well, that we're pretty excited about their ability to play together and match up with a lot of our guards. This year we struggled a little bit from the three overall, shooting that consistently night in and night out, where there's nights where, we're one of 12, one of 15. And then the next night, all of a sudden we're rattling off, I think our best night was a 14-3 night. So, we just bring a little different. The one thing that you can guarantee that we're going to bring is we're going to get buckets in the paint off of our cutting actions and different things that we do that way. True Stoffel is a phenomenal passer. And when you're a 6'4" guard, 6'5" guard, that's a pretty tough matchup to try to defend on any given night. And the fact that he can go defend in the post, he can defend a guard, it makes it a really tough matchup for most people. You throw in, Braden Ranke, his offensive rebounding abilities, Sebastian Anderson coming in off the bench, Mick Micklig. He may not have the height, but he plays way bigger than he might be on paper. It's just a lot of fun to watch our guys play, and they've really gotten to understand how each other plays and what they're going to do. When you have as many seniors as we do, that tends to happen because they've played together their entire lives.
Yeah, I think you have a really good shot, Coach. Best of luck to you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Got an endorsement from Dan Ross today. How about that? Coach, the Mosinee Indians begin their playoff journey on March 6th. They'll play the winner of 6-seed Elk Mound and 11-seed Black River Falls. Coach, best of luck come playoff time.
Thank you, guys.
All right, there he is. And again, we got a jam-packed show here today, so we're in that that fly by the seat of our pants mode right now, and we're going to bring in now Marshfield Tigers head basketball coach Chris Fischer, one of my favorite guys to talk to in all the world, every single time. And here he is. Marshfield Tigers will begin their playoff journey as the 3-seed. Coach, you played a tough schedule this year. Tell us about the schedule that you played in order to achieve the 3-seed.
We always want to challenge ourselves in a non-conference, especially now when we only have 10 conference games to play. Finding 14 non-conference games can be a challenge, so we try to have a good mix of teams from all over the state because we're centrally located. We can kind of travel in all directions. We always want to look for the best programs to compete against, not just at the varsity level, but we want our freshmen and our JV programs to compete at that level as well. And we've had some pretty special opportunities to play at some pretty cool venues against some top-notch opponents. I think if I remember correctly, looking at our non-conference schedule, I want to say we played 5 non-conference teams that are leading their conference and have potential of winning a conference championship. Hudson River Falls are playing for the Big Rivers. Brookfield Central's in a grudge match in the Greater Metro. Kaukauna, of course, in the Fox Valley, and Waunakee in the Badger Large. So for as long as I do this, every season, every year, we want to find out how good we actually are. We never want to go through a season and say to ourselves, boy, I wish we could have played a higher level of competition. We want to achieve that every year. And we've competed at a high level throughout this year. So we're proud of the body of our work. And, we've got to get ourselves ready to go in these next couple weeks here.
Coach said he's had his guys play at some cool venues. I completely agree. The Kohl Center on a state championship floor a year ago. I found Coach in Orlando, Florida, and got to have some fun in Orlando with his guys last year. Coach, a handful of losses over the last week and a half or two. How do you and the guys get that turned around in time when it matters come playoffs?
I think we do have it turned around. I want to be careful that our program doesn't become its own worst enemy. We actually have a better record going into the playoffs this year than we did last year. We've played a lot of really good teams, and we've challenged ourselves, as we've already talked about. We've played multiple back-to-backs. The conference, our conference is really good this year. DC Everest and Stevens Point, along with us, we've got 3 of the top 5 seeds in our sectional. So when you play at that level against really good teams, you're bound to come up short here and there. We happen to do it in about a 8-day stretch, but in all of those games that we didn't come out on top, we had opportunities at the end of the game to win them. We didn't make the necessary plays to do that. So it's always somewhere in the middle. You're never as good as you think you are. You're never as bad as you think you are. When you lose a game, you think the world's coming to an end, and how are you ever going to win another game? And when you win a game, you think you're never going to get beat again. So we have to make sure that when we watch ourselves and when we self-evaluate, we've got to look at what's true. We've got to watch film. We've got to look at our analytics, and we've got to figure out how we can improve on our weaknesses. And that's what will happen when you play good teams. They'll expose your weaknesses, but you also see what your strengths are. So you got to play to your strengths. You got to work on your weaknesses, and you got to try to get your team playing its best coming down the stretch.
Marshfield Tigers have an opponent win-loss percent of 5.10. That might be the best in Section 1 in Division 1. I have to comb through it later. Last one for me, Coach. Appleton West, Wausau West, Superior. How well do you think you know your regional pod?
Know Wausau West very well because we just got done playing them on Friday night. Appleton West and Superior know very little about both of those teams. Appleton West, I remember them coming to Marshfield about 6 years ago to play in a sectional semifinal against Hudson at a neutral site, and they were really good at that time with Will Mahoney and Jack Flynn. They went on to play at UW Oshkosh, so I saw their careers. Since that point, they've gone through some coaching changes. I do know they built a brand new facility, a new athletic complex there, which might attract some athletes. I know they played Rapids. That's the one game I'm aware of. They played a conference opponent or a common opponent. So we've got to do some study on them. Superior, when I was an assistant coach about 15 years ago, Superior was one of the best teams in our sectional. That one year, I don't know if you guys remember this, there was one year where WIA experimented with a Super Tuesday.
Yep.
And Superior played a really good De Pere team on that Tuesday after they had beaten us in the playoffs. So Superior's have historically had a really good program. Since they've been out of the big rivers, we don't play them, but they just got done playing Wausau West not too long ago. I'm aware that they've got a really talented player in Calvin Anderson that has been injured, but it sounds like he might be returning. So, we'll start our prep for those teams probably by Friday. We've got to get our scout going, but we've got one more game left against Wausau East on Thursday that we've got to focus on. But at the moment, I don't know a whole lot about Appleton West or Superior.
Dan Ross, you say I cheer too much for the Marshfield Tigers and I take it too easy on them. I think that was pretty fair.
Yeah, I think you're right. And just so you know, Chris Fischer, Jason talks about you 3 times a day, even if he just brings you up.
Does he talk about how many points we score? We've had a couple games where we've scored over 70 this year, so maybe he's talking about that.
I tell you what, I saw you up in Merrill. It's the only time that I watched you guys play this year, and I was like, give them the gold ball. If they shoot like this is crazy. Yeah. Over 100 that night.
Yeah, I was a genius that night.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, are they going to cover the shooters tonight? I don't know. No. It seems like the answer is no. So 2 quick questions for you. I know that you bring back some kids from last year's team. How do you think that your experience last year on making it to the state championship is going to help the team this year, especially those kids that didn't have as big of a role last year?
There's a hunger there, and there's a belief now that it can be done. Sometimes just showing your community and your program that those types of things can be achieved can be a big step, because we had a few years where you're trying to get over that hump. And this is dating back, 10, 12 years ago, when we get to sectionals and maybe come up a step or 2 away from getting to the state tournament. But getting over that hump last year was really big. Guys like Chris, Valen, and Camden were really big down the stretch. So you count on those guys to lead the way. And the other guys like Vetter, Ben, and Nick, they got a taste of what it was like to step on that floor. They caught any auxiliary energy and emotion from those things. So that's definitely a positive for us and something that we need to use as motivation.
Yeah, and my last question, observation here, and I mentioned it at the open of the show today, was I think that your sectional feels pretty wide open. I think I told Jason that there's 8 or 9 teams that if somebody told me that they ended up winning the sectional, I would be like, yeah, okay. Because it feels like there's a lot of good teams in the sectional. I don't know if there's a lot of state championship teams, more than just a couple, I think, that could win the gold ball. Wisconsin Lutheran's a big part of that probably. But just making it out of the sectional, I think there's 8 or 9 teams. What do you think?
I would agree with that. Hudson as the 8 seed, as the potential Big Rivers champion, shows you the depth. Neenah as the 9 seed. We know Neenah very well from having played them pretty much every year, a couple times in the playoffs over the last few seasons here. Kimberly might be one of the hottest teams in the sectional. They had just, I believe they're the 7 seed. They had just beat Kaukauna last week. And Superior with Kelvin Anderson in his return from injury. He's a potential guy in March that, if he goes for 30, 35 a game, he could single-handedly carry the team. And I know they've got other players, but he's certainly the most significant one. But I would agree with you on that. But as a coach, I learned this. You learn a bunch of things over time. You don't have to play everybody, right? Our sectional is loaded with really good teams. We're not going to have to play everybody. So you have to break it down into segments, and you've got to break it down into your opponents and who you could potentially play. And then if you continue to move on, then you look at the next segment. So you're right, there is a bunch of really good teams, but the really good teams don't have to play all the other good teams to get out of the sectional.
That's what the rest of the season's for, Coach.
That's exactly right.
All right, as I said, the Marshfield Tigers are the 3 seed. They take to the playoff floor on March 6th, where they will take on the 14 seed Appleton West. Coach Chris Fischer, best of luck come playoff time.
Jason, one more thing.
Please.
I know you might be strapped for time. I caught a couple of really good college basketball games yesterday. I don't know if you saw those at all. There was two in particular that I liked the outcome of. The Cincinnati-Kansas game I thought was a good defensive performance.
Yeah.
And then of course, the Duke-Michigan game. I don't know if you caught those or not, but I just thought I'd like to slide that in there, and maybe you could talk about them for a little bit.
Not only did I catch that Duke game, but they may have bought my dinner tonight, so we appreciate that. Coach, best of luck on playoffs.
Thanks, Jason. Roll Tigers.
Of course, Dan
High
knows
tide.
Dan knows what I'm talking about there.
High tide.
All right, well,
High
let's
tide.
stay in Division 1, and let's stay in Section 1. We'll talk to Jake Schalow of the DC Everest Evergreens. Coach, the number 1 seed in the group, was that the goal coming out of the practice locker room back in November?
Certainly, when you look coming into the season, you just want to be able to find ways to be playing your best basketball as you get to the middle to end part of February and into the playoffs. And yeah, maybe at the beginning of the season, it wasn't the specific goal of saying the 1 seed, but with how things shook out, I don't think anybody was disappointed in being able to earn that.
First year coach, number 1 seed. How do you explain that?
It's a ton of credit to the guys. We've got a number of players that have been playing on the varsity team with Everest for multiple years. So it was a good situation coming in, and players just buying into a new system, buying into a new coach, and trusting the process day in and day out. And kind of like what I had said for coming into the season, just trying to string together really good days, really good practices, and seeing where the chips fall then as the season goes on.
I talked to your athletic director yesterday. I told him that you were the 1 seed. He was hoping for a 3. I said, no, they're the 1. And, of course, he trusts what we know about this whole process. And so maybe he already told you that, and today wasn't much of a surprise. We also talked about how to put together a 14-game non-conference schedule with your conference continuing to get smaller and smaller. We saw Lakeland and Merrill on the schedule, which kept you on the one line, but just barely. So talk about what are the challenges of going through and trying to round out and find 14 other competitors.
Yeah, well, pretty much this entire non-conference schedule for this season was already set when I was hired. So some of it we were able to keep the same. Some of the teams that we have that we'll see potentially in playoffs will still be on the schedule for next year, and then we were able to kind of tweak and adjust and get some different teams. But certainly, as you look at it, filling 14 games it is not an easy task of having to find all those games. Where our conference schedule gets set is we play mostly just Fridays. So we look at the schedule, there's a lot of travel that gets put on where we're on an hour and a half, 2-hour long bus trip on a Tuesday night and not getting home until 11:30. So we try to be strategic on what we use then for Saturdays for that. But yeah, there's certainly some challenges, as well as then you look up and down the valley. You have a strong schedule that then who we're going to see in, game out, just within our conference as well.
Marshfield had been conference champions for I don't know how many years. I guess the math will tell you. DC Everest was last a conference champion in 21. So now here in 26, you're conference champions. You're the number 1 seed. How do you and the guys keep that from not being enough?
I think just compartmentalizing it, finding a way to, again, look at it. Can we just be our best versions at practice tomorrow? Can we be our best versions at practice again on Tuesday? And then day by day, as we look to Thursday, a huge one at home on senior night against Spash. And then as we then push out to next week, it's really do or die. You have to be able to show up every single game because anything can happen. I know a handful of years ago, there was one of the 16 seed teams that had bumped the 1 seed. So we played both Rapids and Chippewa Falls earlier this season, so we have a little bit of familiarity with that. But when it gets to this part of the year, throw out the records. It's a brand new season once we get to March.
That number 1 seed was Eau Claire Memorial. Coach, if Chad Brisky comes and roughs you up, that's your problem, not mine. Dan Ross, what do you got for Coach Schalow today?
Hey, Coach. I have told a lot of people around in my circles and in high school gyms around the area that you were a home run hire for DC Everest, and I've told Jason that as well. Just the right coach at the right time. Congratulations, Coach. You're doing a great job at that program. And that's coming from somebody in Wausau, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So as a first year coach, what have you learned about your team that really surprised you? And I guess my other question, I'll ask them both at the same time, since they kind of align. But what, I lost it. Answer that one. I will think about it quick. Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I don't know if there's any just major surprises. I think I kind of alluded to it earlier with Jason's question. I think the biggest thing when you're a new coach and you come into a new program is, can you get players to buy into whatever your vision is? And I thought that when I took the job and was able to see just some of the makeup of the team, looking a little bit at some of the games from last year, I knew that there were some pieces to the puzzle as you try and piece that throughout the season. But then to, I guess, maybe getting to your question with it of, I think that we have a good mix of kids that get along together well off the floor and then play for each other on the floor. We do like a preseason team meeting with goals and personal goals and team goals. And some of the answers that I had from that were just stuff that you don't expect from high school kids. I can't say enough about our senior leadership group. Cade Felch has played for Everest for 4 years now, and I believe a 3-year starter. And the amount of just savviness that he has and how he plays and his work ethic that goes into it. And then the same thing with Xavier Edwards. He's, again, I believe a 3 to 4 year varsity player. He recently just broke the school's all-time assist record. And the one that comes back to my mind when I think about that of guys that are willing to play for each other and play for the name across the chest rather than the name on the back. Xavier's preseason goal was to help Cade reach his goals. And I just remember looking at it, and it just kind of gives me a little bit of goosebumps thinking about it. Of that is a remarkable thing for a 17, 18-year-old high school kid to say. So I guess kind of a culmination of all of those things.
Yeah. And real quick, Coach, this was the question that I thought about again.
Hey, here we go, Dan.
Hey,
all right.
yeah.
Rock and roll, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'm building it up and it's gonna be like, okay. But at what point in the season did you realize that you were onto something here? Was there a win, or was it a game where you look back and you're like, that was the time that they bought in? This is when we knew that we were on the right path.
There's probably two stretches to it. The early part of the season, I felt like we were still figuring ourselves out, still learning where some of our strengths were, where some things that we still needed to improve on. But when we came back from Christmas and we went over to River Falls and had two pretty handed wins against River Falls and West Salem, and both of them are top teams. And I think West Salem finished the year in the top 10 in Division II. River Falls is the number 1 seed. I thought that was that first time where we had guys like, okay, I see that coach is not just blowing smoke. Like we actually, we believe in what we can do. And we think that there's some validity to what he's saying. So that would be the first part. And then the win versus Marshfield. Like what was mentioned earlier, there was Marshfield's really just kind of been the king of the conference now the last 4 to 5 years. And maybe along those same lines of, we've talked about being a good enough team to compete for a conference title, being a good enough team to be able to compete with Marshfield and Spash and be at the top of the league. And then to be able to win that game and turn around a couple days later and then be able to take care of Spash then at Spash. I'd say it's probably those two times that maybe they mean different things, but throughout the course of the season is where we had seen the full all-in buy-in.
Yeah, the Marshfield win opened up the eyes around the state, I think. Yeah, for sure.
And
I agree.
And it brought a tear to my eye. I'll tell you that. All right, Coach. Coach Jake Schalow and the DC Everest Evergreens. You might find Coach in Wisconsin Rapids on Tuesday, March 3rd. That's the play-in game, Wisconsin Rapids, Lincoln, and Chippewa Falls. Winner there will head to Schofield on Friday, March 6th. That's when the Evergreens take to the playoff floor for the first time. Coach, best of luck.
Thank you very much.
All right, we are just rocking and rolling here. Man, we got another good one, Dan. And we're stay in Division I. You know, whoever puts the schedule together, pretty smart guy.
I wonder who that is.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to congratulate him later on putting together a fine show here. So we bring in now Kaukauna Galloping Ghosts head basketball coach Ryan Bowers. Coach, congratulations on a great season with the Ghosts. Because we've got the ability to see the math on the seeds throughout the season. Sometimes I look at it like a horse race, which is not the way that anybody should look at it, but it's kind of fun for me. And you know, your team, you're on the 1 line, the 3, the 2, you end up on the 4. But you still secure that home regional game. I just talk about the season that you and the guys have had that has given you the opportunity to host your own regional final. Should that happen?
Yeah, that's always a goal of ours for sure. Can we do enough work throughout the regular season to have a regional home game? And if you can play the regional championship on your home floor is really important. So we're really proud of the group for that, and looking forward to tournament time.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I guess let's just look at your group here. Or I guess just tell me about that. You know, as you look at your regional pod. Eau Claire North, Stevens Point, Eau Claire Memorial. What are your thoughts on the other 3 teams in your pod?
Well, at the end of the day, it's a new season. It's a second season. Everybody's 0-0. So our whole thing, what we've discussed all year is one day at a time. We're not going to change that now just because it becomes tournament time. So We've got Eau Claire North on Friday night at our place, and that'll be our focus. And to be quite honest, we got a pretty important one coming up here Thursday at Oshkosh North that we're pretty focused on as well. But it's an exciting day in the state of Wisconsin because the seed's being released and the tournament's starting. It's a fun time of year, and I had the guys, all together and watched the show, and so yeah, that's all exciting. But our whole mindset is, hey, we got practice tomorrow. We got to get ready for Thursday. And then once we get done with this regular season, we'll definitely be moving on from there. But Eau Claire North, we have them game one, and we start right there. And we're not going to really look beyond that at this point.
Coach, you lead me right into my next one. To be my final question, I know Dan's cooked up a couple for you. You were kind enough to give me 15 minutes on a mid-season report a few weeks back. So for this next week, you mentioned the opponents. What's left to work on? What do you need to see out of your guys to continue headed into the right direction come playoff time?
Yeah, what I'm really excited about is this last game of the regular season for us. It's a meaningful game. I believe it'll be a playoff-type atmosphere for our group. There's a conference championship share on the line for it. Oshkosh North is very, very good. They're playing really, really well right now. They just beat Beaver Dam, who I believe is 7 in the state, D2 in some polls by 30 last night. And so we'll have our hands full with them, and hopefully playing in that game and that environment on the road can help our mindset in terms of coming into tournament time next weekend.
Dan, I know you've envied the Galloping Ghosts as a mascot for a long time, right? Hodags, Marshmen, all the great names in Wisconsin. But what do you have for Coach Bowers here today?
Yeah, Galloping Ghost is a fantastic name. It's, the Hodags do get a lot of love outside the state, especially because they start looking into what that means. But man, you have the alliteration and the mascot. It's awesome. You guys have a horse on the field that Jason is very, very afraid of. I think it would be great if he came out and brought the ball out to center court. Probably a little bit more danger
I don't
indoors.
think you have a horse on a basketball floor, Dan. That's not.
Well, you'd have to put a mat down, right? Yeah. So, Coach, for a lot of our viewers who probably aren't that familiar with Kaukauna and the Fox Valley Association in general, we know that it might be the best conference in the state, hands down. But for those that aren't aware of the day in, day out, every game is meaningful in a difficult game. How do you think that prepares you for the playoff push here?
Well, I think what allows us to do is we have to stay present. If you don't stay present in our league, you're going to get bumped. And so learning that mindset of this next practice, this next game, this next scout, we've got to make sure that we're locked in, we're connected, everybody's in on together is a really important thing, because come tournament time, there's no do-overs, there's no tomorrows. So when the season comes to an end, it only ends well for one team who wins a state championship. And so you want to make sure that you're doing everything on your end to make sure that A, your team is ready to go, and B, they're locked in terms of that mindset of we can't be looking ahead of anything. So playing our schedule, playing in our league prepares us that way very well.
You have had a lot of really, really good teams over the last couple of years, even extended way back beyond that even. And I know you can't compare seasons very well, right? But do you think that you have a team that can win the sectional and win a gold or silver ball this year?
We have the pieces to do that. We have the mindset to do that, but we also are aware that there's other teams that are very good too. And so the respect factor that we have for our opponent, regardless of who it is always there that way. And so the basketball gods, you can't fool them. And so we just keep our nose down. We just keep working and we let the chips fall where they fall. As long as our kids are continuing to do what they're doing, playing hard, playing together, good things can happen, and we see where it goes from there.
How wild is Oshkosh North going to be this week?
It's going to be outstanding, to be honest. It's going to be a lot of fun. Something our kids look forward to. The history of us playing against them in the last handful of years, a lot of really good basketball games, buzzer beaters, high scoring, two good programs going after each other. Oshkosh North's well coached. They've got some really good high profile players. And so playing in that game, in that environment Thursday night, like I said earlier, is going to be a really great game for our kids heading into tournament time.
So do you travel straight across the lake or do you go around it? Like just like go over the ice?
We're not going over the ice. No.
Coach, we talked about this during the midseason report. This will be the last one. We'll let you off the hook after this one. We talked about what an advantage it is to play in your home gym. I mean, the fans show up. They're into the game. They're knowledgeable about the game. They support those kids like I would put them up against any other fan base in the state. And because of the season that you and your guys have had, you give yourselves the opportunity to play 2 home games in the playoffs. How important is that going to be?
It's really important. I mean, at the end of the day, anybody would love to play at home, and that is one of our goals. Is okay, can we do well enough throughout the regular season to get a home game come tournament time, and if we can get the regional championship to be in our home court, that's even more beneficial that way. Just not having to get on a bus and travel across the state potentially or wherever you may have to go. So it's to be able to play at home is comforting that way for sure.
Friday, March 6th is when it all starts for the Galloping Ghosts, so where they will play the Eau Claire North Huskies. Coach, best of luck come playoff time.
Appreciate it, and thanks for the coverage.
All right, there is Coach, and we'll put him back in the waiting room, and we're wheeling and dealing here, Dan, because we got a heavy hitter coming in here. We're gonna leave Division I for the day, and we are going to talk some Division V basketball. We started. Our first comparison, our first case study was in Division V, and our first case study was Columbus Catholic and Loyal. How did Loyal get the 1 and Columbus the 2? And Coach, thanks for joining. I'll bring you in on that. What it really came down to is in the 2 seed versus the 1. Your opponents 119 and 87. Loyal's opponents 83 and 114. So they had a softer schedule, so to put, but a few more wins. And if we looked at Nakusa with the 4 wins, Rice Lake with the 5 wins, Living Word Lutheran with 11. When we put this all together, 3 more wins from your opponents would have actually given you the 1. But I imagine you're really happy with the 2 seed come playoff time.
Yeah, and it's not just coach speak. We really don't care where we are in the bracket. You have to play everybody anyway eventually. I don't know what the formula is or how that all works. I'll trust you on that, and you're very good at figuring that out. But we're happy to be in a very difficult bracket, and the opportunity to just play more games. And if it's 1 more game or 5 more games or whatever it is, we're just going to enjoy it and kind of make sure we control what we can control. And that's really all we can do.
Head coach here, Joe Konieczny of the Columbus Catholic Dons, conference champions, and it was an interesting conference season. You were at Loyal, end up seeing them miss a couple of free throws that prevented maybe a tie or an overtime. But you had the same thing happen at your gym, where your guy missed a free throw at the end for a chance there. So just talk about how tight that rivalry really was this year between you and Loyal.
I think the whole conference season was kind of like that. Those 2 games, it was really kind of full circle. We lost 52-50 at the free throw line, missing free throw. And then we won 51-50 with them in the same situation. You probably talked to Coach DeSmet. I don't think that, the missed free throws by us or them decided either one of those games. It was a lot of things before that. We did some things really well, and we did some things we'd like to adjust. They're very good. But to get a conference championship, proud of our boys, and I hope they don't take it for granted. It's a special thing and a lot of memories they'll have.
Yeah, it's just like the seeds. It's all the games piled into one thing. It's called a book of business. Those games are a book of business. So you're exactly right. Where exactly it was won or lost is up for debate during an entire basketball game. Let's talk about your group here a little bit, and a potential game against Athens, maybe a potential game against Loyal, and we can kind of play out that whole bracket. But the question for you is, when does you and your coaching staff go to work now on beginning to scout the opponents in your bracket?
I think we've been doing that all season. When the groupings get released, I think you realize right away our 16-team grouping is pretty darn good. When you look at 5 or 6 teams that have been ranked in the top 10 over the course of the season, Owen Withey being an 8 seed kind of tells you how many good teams there are in the group. So, we watch a lot of basketball, a lot of common opponents. You watch Zaleski sports whenever you can. And I don't think there's a ton of surprises from a personnel standpoint. And we get this next week to maybe focus a little bit more on the opponents we might face that first week. But I think it's a season-long thing. And I think we've gotten better at just making sure that we are who we are, regardless of who we play. Trying to figure out some tendencies, but if we do what we're capable of doing, that's really what we control the most.
Dan Ross, Columbus Catholic will take on Butternut on Tuesday, March 3rd, but at the top of their bracket is your Prentice Buccaneers. You've had a very high opinion of Prentice all season long.
Yeah, I actually voted them number 2 the last couple of weeks in the media poll. Not going to be this week when I do it, but yeah, I think Prentice is a really good team, and I'm sure you know a lot about them already, Coach. And behind the scenes, talking to Jason, just little things, right? Of when he brought you in, he was talking about how close you and Loyal were on the seeds, and Loyal, I think, has a little bit easier path, and it's just, and I know you don't really care, Coach, about who you play, but I just think that Prentice and Athens, 2 really good teams that I've seen with my own eyes, they're good teams. I just don't think it's the same as like a Mellon, right, as a 4 seed, but that's not really a question for you, Coach. My question for you is, you have won a state championship, I think 2 years ago, and as a coach leading a team at the start of this playoff run, what have you learned from going all the way that you can give to your guys to stay grounded and to keep moving forward?
I think it sounds like coach speak, but you can't lose what you've already earned. And the important things is they've earned my respect, they've earned my admiration, they've earned my love. Our senior class has 3 conference championships. They've already been to sectionals twice. They won a state championship 2 years ago, and they can't, feel like those things can be lost if something goes poorly one night in the playoffs. I think we're kind of playing with house money a little bit. They've got some things in their back pocket that a lot of people want, and you've already done those things, and you can only get more. So I think the key is to play free and loose, and to just enjoy every minute of it. If you play with enthusiasm, and joy, and appreciation, pressure is outside perception. I try to make sure we don't ever feel any of that. And at the end of the day, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, what you earn from a trophy standpoint is not as important as whether or not you were accountable to your teammates. And we really focus on the things that are a little bit more maybe not outside influenced.
Yeah, that's a good answer. And the kids have the memories forever, right? And hopefully they're good memories. One more quick question for you. I know you have a 2:15 game, right? You will obviously be heavy favorites in that. Do you still get butterflies in that first round of the tournament?
Yeah, I get butterflies before every game, and I want to make sure that what I do as the coach helps my players be at their best. And there's a real not pressure, but you get nervous. But I also think it's nice to play that Tuesday, to get that out of your system going forward. There's been some years where we had a bye and you go a week without playing, and now on Friday night you're in a situation where you haven't played in a week, and now that's the first taste of one and done. So I like playing at home, and it is what it is. If you win, you go on. If you lose, you don't, and somebody's going to go home unhappy. And I think one team at the end is kind of satisfied that they made it to the last day and won. The other 127 are going to experience it for the last time with a loss. So we're just going to enjoy every minute that we have together, and you try to make sure that you set that example for your players, I think.
Yeah, high school sports is absolutely fantastic, and it helps to build young men and young women into what they become. But man, it comes to an end, right? And it's absolutely heartbreaking, especially as a coach, right? Because you are a big part of their life for 3 or 4 years, and then you kind of have to send them away. It's heartbreaking both ways.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking every year. I told our players, I used to think that if you made it to state, it would be easier, or if you made it to the championship game, it would be easier. If you won it, it would be easier. But even when we won state 2 years ago, you're saying goodbye to 9 guys. And sometime over the next 3 or 4 weeks, that's going to happen. And it sucks, no matter how you look at it. And, but we try to really appreciate the time we have.
Dan, you had kind of alluded to, or Coach, you may have actually been in that answer about your the butterflies and the coach face. I've got to know Joe for the last 20 years and over the last 8 years really well, spending time with him, and because we've got a production studio now in the school, I get to see him in those hours leading up to game day or on game time, and it's pretty. Joe, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but we're just like this. We're laughing. We're having a really fun time. And I don't know exactly what time on the clock it happens, but there's a time on the clock that something happens, and all of a sudden I lose Joe. And and Coach shows up and he's gone, and I'm like, man, we were just having a really fun time, good conversation, and he's gone. But that just goes to show the type of coach and that you take this seriously, because you want the best for these kids, because that high school experience is so short. You want them to give them the best chance for the outcomes. You've got a crossover game, conference champ. You'll play the first place team on the other side. Just tell us about who that opponent is, and how do you and the guys kind of take this week of practice and then heading into that crossover game on Saturday?
Well, it's a really cool event. The top 4 teams, or top 2 in each half, go and play, and we play Eau Claire Regis. Obviously very good, some really talented athletes, and Rissler and Cooper and the younger Rissler, and right on down the line. Some size, athleticism, a lot of skill. And it's always a great way to kind of head into the playoffs, because it's a playoff type environment against like a sectional final type team. So we're going to go there and play hard and learn some things. And it's kind of a pressure-free way to experience that environment, because if you do get beat, you play on. And if you win, it's really not the ultimate goal. So we're going to enjoy it. Really appreciate the opportunity and get better from playing a really good team.
Like I said, Columbus Catholic and Joe Konieczny's Dons take to the playoff floor on Tuesday, March 3rd. They will host the 15-seed Butternut. Coach, best of luck come playoff time.
Hey, thanks for the coverage, guys. We appreciate it.
And we move on now to Slinger Owls head basketball coach Alex Lavine. Coach, thanks for joining. Congratulations on a really well put together season. You'll start playoff action as a 2-seed. Just talk about the accomplishment of the season resulting in the 2-seed come playoff time.
Yeah, we've had a nice season. Really played a tough schedule. Obviously, we play in a tough league, the North Shore, and then outside of the North Shore, we scheduled as tough as we could to really just challenge ourselves and really to have ourselves ready to play our best basketball at this time of year. The seedings are official, but we're still playing meaningful and tough games. We play tomorrow against Tosa West on the road, so it'll be another one that'll get us ready for the tournament.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. The last couple weeks, maybe a couple ups, couple downs. So what's left for you to impart on the guys in this kind of last week now to get ready for the playoffs?
Yeah, just day to day. I think, you want to think ahead. That's human nature, right? But you have to just stay day to day, and you have to stack positive days. We're a returning and experienced group. We know what the tournament's like, and it's a one-day deal, one day at a time. So if you get ahead of yourself, that's when all of a sudden, it's over, right? So just one day at a time. And I think, we have 2 games this week, which is nice. And then next week, that week can be a little long because you have the whole week to prepare. But really it's just one day at a time, one good practice at a time, rinse and repeat.
I had the pleasure of being able to do the play call for a really fantastic game for you and your kids, just the experience that you all got to have at the Fiserv Arena, playing on that big basketball floor. So tell us about that part of the plan in your conference scheduling on playing on that big floor, should that come later during the playoffs, and how that all fits into the grand scheme of the season.
Yeah, we had a few games where we played on college size, floors or bigger floors. And we, in the past, last year, we would practice on a bigger floor in a bigger gym in preparation for that. But we've done it so many times now. When I talked to our guys, they said they didn't need to do that, so the length of the court doesn't necessarily change much really. But anytime you're playing on a bigger court, you're usually playing in a meaningful game. Whether it's at Fiserv Forum or at Concordia or the 608 event that they have out in Madison. So I think it's just about keeping the main thing the main thing. If you're playing in those events, just focusing on like what's important, the game plan, what we need to do to be successful. And then usually when you play good teams, you have to adjust along the way too, because they're going to make things hard for you and challenging. So how do you adjust, or how do you maybe get back on track with your plan because they take things away and make it difficult to execute?
A lot of people around the state are familiar with Jack and Joey Conan, and for good reason. They're highly skilled basketball players, but there's more to your team than the Conan brothers. So fill everybody in on what makes the Owls tick this year.
Yeah, when we're playing at our best, we've got 4 or 5 guys in double figures. We have 3 seniors who play a ton for us: Colton Mance, Brett Palm, and Bryson Fogel. They're kind of like guards for us, but they're guys who can score. They're guys who can defend. They're extremely experienced. Really, all of them have been 3-year varsity players for us, and a huge part of what we do. And then off the bench, we have a guy who's 6'6", Jude Sakarla. He's a junior. He's a huge, piece to our puzzle. And then 7 and 8 is kind of Devin Berger and JJ Feilbach. For a long time, during the middle part of the season, we had injuries, and those specifically JJ and Devin had to step up and play more. And I thought that was really good for us. So, you mentioned schedule as a thing to kind of help prepare us for the season. But sometimes when injuries pop up and you have to have other guys step up and take on greater roles, that's really good too. So the regular season allows you to develop this body of work and develop, your team as a whole, not just, individually. I think you have to have 5 guys who can play to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. So, we've got, I think, a good group, beyond Jack and Joe. Obviously, they're our best 2 offensive players, our best 2 defensive players. But it's the other guys that I think, make us who we are.
Coach, I've been telling Dan Ross all about the Slinger Owls all year. Let's see if Dan learned anything from what I've told him about your basketball team this year.
Yeah, Jason is a huge fan of the Slinger Owls. Taking a look at your sectional, and it's going to be one game at a time. We're not going to project. In the media, we can project a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But just looking at the teams in your half sectional, right? You have Port Washington, you have Nicolet, you have losses to both of those teams, right? You've also beaten Nicolet this year. So my question is, does it drive the guys on the team knowing that you've lost close games to these teams and that they're going to have another chance to come back and show how much better they are now than earlier in the season?
Yeah, it's both of those teams are really good. I was looking at the Bound Power rankings, and all of those teams that you mentioned are in the top 10 of Division II. So obviously, however the bracket is set up is how it's set up, and sometimes your toughest games are, your earlier ones. Now in Division II, I think there's a lot of parity and a lot of good teams, so I think there's going to be tough games throughout. But with that being said, I think there's not going to need to be a lot said in terms of motivation, right? Like we know that those losses that we had to those teams, both close losses, they hurt a little bit, right? So I think it's more about tactically making the adjustments that need to be made and then executing it at that given time. If you play a team 10 times and you can beat them 8 out of 10 times, well, that's great. But that's not what the tournament asks for. It asks you to be really good and win in a 2-hour stretch of time. So those 2 teams in particular, if we were to play them, would present challenges to us. And I'm excited about the opportunity to make adjustments, but also the opportunity to, to bounce back and to show growth and improvement. Because really that's what this is about, is getting better and improving and putting your best foot forward at the right time of year.
Yeah, and that's the reason why we don't have a tournament in January, for example.
Yeah, it's
right?
like 2 totally different seasons. We played Nicolet in early January and beat them by 30. We played really well and they played really poorly. And that is an irrelevant data point for what could happen down the line. It's just a totally new day.
Yeah. So let's say that the next, I guess, 3 weeks, right? Because the tournament's still a week away. 3 weeks from now, you're making plans going to the Kohl Center. What really went well over the next 3 weeks for your team?
Starts with defense. I don't know who else. I don't know what other teams are giving up per se in Division II, but we give up about 50 points a game, and I think that that's probably the best, if not very near close to that. So it starts with defense, and then offensively, sharing the ball and making people guard, multiple actions, having 4 or 5 guys in double figures in every game. I think just kind of being in the moment, one game at a time, will help us to do that. Like I said, we're an experienced group. We know what the tournament looks and feels like. It's just about going to do it.
We are increasing our reach at Zaleski Sports, which is why Slinger is now very much a part of us. But for a lot of the people here in central Wisconsin, which is where I am, Jason's in Florida or Alabama, so he's in a completely different tax bracket.
He seems really happy. Now I know why.
Yeah, exactly. But I think this year and the last couple of years, I think the best basketball in the state is in Division II. I honestly think that. And a lot of people think, well, it's not Division I. But would you agree that it might as well be Division I with the amount of talent and the skill levels of the teams that you see night in, night out?
Yeah, I mentioned the power rankings, that I have them up here right now, and one of the teams that I hadn't seen was New Berlin West, and I went and saw them the other night, and they are really good. They got multiple guys who can score and shoot the ball at a high level. Green Bay Notre Dame, I saw them last week. Tosa West is a defending Division II state champion. I think with all these teams, you either see like 4 or 5 like really, really good players, or like 1 or 2 Division I type guys. But, all of them have high-level players or depth that will provide challenge or issue. But, I think the teams in Division I are good, right? Like a Wisconsin Lutheran is really good. There's no denying that. I think what makes Division II really unique is the competitiveness, maybe let's just say 1 through 20 or 1 through 15 or 1 through 10 is tighter, right? Like it's way more about there's more parity, more competitiveness amongst those teams. If you look at just the half sectionals, like there's going to be a ton of really competitive regional finals, and those teams you could make an argument should both be, state tournament type teams, but you could make that argument for 20 teams, and, you got to pare it down as you go. So, Division II is really impressive, last year and this year and maybe moving forward here.
Yeah. Wisconsin Lutherans enrollment Division II, right? But their performance factored up to 1. Is that right?
I think so, yeah. I know at one point they were Division III. I don't know how long ago that was, but they're a machine.
That be in the NBA soon at the path that they're on. Coach Alex Lavine and the Slinger Owls begin their playoff journey on Friday, March 6th. They'll take on the winner of 7 Kewaskum and 10 West Bend East. Coach, best of luck come playoff time.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate having me, guys.
Good luck, Coach.
All right, yeah, and we got to keep trucking here. We diverted from Division I just for a bit, Dan, but not for long, because we're coming back with a vengeance and a fury into Division I. This is Dave Mlachnik from West Allis Central as he gets his system configured for us. His Bulldogs are going to begin playoffs as the number 2, and there is the coach right there. Coach, as soon as you turn your microphone on, we'll be all set to go, and we'll give you a minute just to do that. Yeah, it's always one of those last final things you gotta. There he goes. Coach Mlachnik joins us now. West Allis Central Bulldogs coach. You're the 2 seed come playoff time. I don't think there's any doubt about the 2. The 1 was with Wisconsin Lutheran, just too tall of a hill to climb. But just tell us about the season performance and now the reward of being the number 2 seed come playoff time.
No, I mean the guys came into the season, summer and fall, and really put in a lot of work this year. It's a veteran group. We got 6 guys returning from last year. And then even the other guys were all part of it. So, we have a total of 6 seniors this year that all bought in. And we put together a tough schedule, to get ready for this time of the year. And the guys really came out of the gate, and faced a lot of really good teams and did a great job. We had some great leadership throughout the year, obviously with Yusuf, being a 4-year starter, Kevin and Caden Travis being 4-year starters. And then you have Max Jones, Isaiah Fox and Caden Allen Davis, with a ton of playing time over the past 3 years, and just really come together and played well this year. So it's been a fun year coaching these guys. We maybe had 1 or 2 bad practices, but overall they've been locked in and ready to go.
Coach, one of the old sports adages is the next man up, and it's something that you hope not to have to tell your team, but you had to tell your team about that just recently with Yusuf's season coming to an end. So tell us about your team philosophy now and next man up.
Well, it's not totally to an end. He's still weighing his options, so that door is open.
Breaking news. I like it.
Well, it's not breaking news. Nobody ever checked with us what was going on, so I don't know.
Here I am.
Why.
I'm checking with you, so tell us what's going on.
Well, we're still trying to figure it out. Him and his parents are, going through their process of evaluating what's going on, and we're giving them that privacy to go through all that, and we'll wait to see. Right now, these guys went through it a couple of years ago. Yusuf was out, and we made the run in the playoffs and had Marquette, in the sectional finals. So, we got guys that obviously, like you said, next man up. But, these guys are ready to take notice. You got talented players that are hungry, to keep on playing. And so we're just going day by day and just trying to get better.
Coach, we've had your Bulldogs on the network a handful of times this year, so people from outside of the Metro have got to know and watch your team play. What else should people know about your team, and especially now as we zero in on the playoffs?
It's a group, chemistry-wise, they stay together. And like I said, it's a talented group. Isaiah Fox, one of the lead point guards in the state. You got Max Jones, who's a prolific shooter and adding dimensions to his game every day. And then you got Kevin Pittman, the big guy in the middle, 6'11" kid that just and these guys are all doing those things. And then you take a look at the other two two guys that go unnoticed, Caden Travis, a senior, and Caden Allen Davis, 2 talented individuals that, it's all about thing that we've been preaching all year. Just make the right play. Guys open, find a guy, trust each other, play the defense. It all starts on the defensive end. And that's one thing that these guys have really been doing, coming to practice every day and just being together and working together. That's the one thing this team has really done, and I've been really proud of them. And you put that schedule together for one reason, right? You may lose a couple games here and there throughout the season, but at the end of the day, the second season starting, and this is the one that truly matters. And so that's what we've been gearing up for and getting ready to go with.
Coach, I found out at the Fiserv, myself and Max Jones have a couple things in common. We both love the camera, and I love that about Max, because these guys are, listen, they're going out, they're having a good time. They're in high school, right? They're having a good time. They're 16 or 18 years old or whatever. They're having a good time. That's we like that too. But what I really want to say more than that about Max is how much he's really grown since last year. He has really come into his own.
Yes, he has. No, just on the floor, becoming that leader, and that's what I mean. We have so many leaders on the floor, and Max is one of them. Great personality, like you said, and just really, kind of taking ownership of his own game, and not just for himself, but for the team. And that's the one thing that I love about Max right now.
Dan, you're one of those guys that has been able to watch Coach Mlachnik's Bulldogs from afar. What do you have for Dave today?
Yeah, I really like the style of play that you guys play with. It's just not something that we see here in Central Wisconsin. So something exciting obviously comes to my eye, and I really enjoy it. And when I see you on the network, I tune in and watch a half or whatever the case is if I'm not at a game. My question for you, Coach, and I've asked a couple of coaches this throughout this year and last year. What are your thoughts about the plan to try to bring 8 Division I teams back to the Kohl Center?
It's what it should have been all along. I don't know why they got rid of it. It's something that, you take a look at some of these sectional final games, and those are state tournament games, and so you want to get the best teams up there and present it to the whole state, not just a regional, or a section area. So I've been pushing that. I don't know why they got rid of it, but hopefully it does come back, because I think, the state of Wisconsin deserves to showcase the talent that's out there. You can go back to when Stevens Point was playing. I forget who they played in their sectional finals. And just a great game. And nail biter, and then they go on and win state. And you see that every year. There's multiple teams that could be up there winning this thing.
Yeah, and they usually put those sectional finals in big gyms, and they are absolutely packed. You can't even find a seat in a lot of these, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I was hoping you were going to have like some breaking news for us or something, more breaking news.
No. Like I said, me and Yusuf Senior and Junior, we talk all the time. But like I told them, this is comes down to a family decision, and I don't know how that got out. And they're trying to weigh all the options of what they're looking at, and they got big decisions. They still want to, it's still his high school career, but he's also got a college future to look at, and we wanted to give him that privacy and let them go through that and figure out what's best for him.
Have you been in contact with the Iowa State coach?
Yeah. Yep. Talked to Coach TJ. I think a couple days after when things came out, and and I pushed Yusuf Senior to give him a call and talk to him and get their opinion on what they think, and that's all part of that evaluation process of, we want to do the best thing that's for Yusuf, and that's number one thing.
Well, Coach, we appreciate the time today. I think it's good that you, Dan, I appreciate the question about the 8 teams back, because if this bracket plays out in a certain way, we could see West Allis Central and Wisconsin Lutheran in that sectional final. I think a lot of people are expecting that. But before we get there, the Bulldogs will take to the playoff floor on March 6th. They'll play the winner of Milwaukee Pulaski and Racine Horlick. Coach, best of luck in the playoffs.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and there's a lot of good teams in there. So everybody's saying, for all the time, it's all the Central and Wisco, but you've got to win the games that are in front of you before you can even get there. So hopefully we get there, and it'll be a fun run as we go forward. But it starts on that March 6th. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck.
I appreciate it. Have a good one.
All right. Well,
talk about a rough draw.
a little. A little, yeah. Well, we're gonna draw up our next coach here, Dan, and we're gonna move back to the Clover Belt, as a matter of fact, where we are going to talk to crickets. We're going to cricket country, and it says it right on the gym wall when you walk in. If you've never been there before, and I know we're talking to the whole state today, if you've never been there before, it says when you walk in, it says "Welcome to Cricket Country," and it is quite an environment there in Fall Creek as we bring in Fall Creek Cricket's head basketball coach, Rick Storlie. Coach, do you have us?
I do. I have you. Do you have me?
Yeah.
You can see me?
Yeah. No, we can't see you, but we can hear you, and I think that'll be fine if you're okay to go with that.
I'm fine. You
All
bet.
right.
Thanks
Coach,
for having me on.
Yeah, well, we're happy to have you, Coach. Just talk to us about the season that you and the guys have had here coming into today's playoff draw.
Well, it's been a exciting season for us. Obviously, we had everybody back from last year, so we knew that potentially we could have a pretty good ball club, and the kids worked very hard to get to this position. To get here and to receive that number 1 seed is pretty. It's a accumulation of a lot of things that happened to us, and I'm real proud of our kids, and they're the ones who really deserve all the credit.
Coach, not only does the number 1 seed give you an opportunity at a pair of home playoff games, it also gives you a bye. Is a bye important? Does that fit into your plans this year?
Well, that's kind of interesting that you bring that up, is that I think maybe that it does. It gives us a chance to heal up maybe a little bit, but maybe when you're playing your best basketball, you want to continue playing, and to do that. So it's one hand it washes, the other one hand it wasn't, but I'll take that bye, and that gives us a little more prep time, and we'll be very happy where we're at.
Um, let's talk about your playoff group just a bit. Mondovi, Melrose, Mindoro, Cadott, Durand, Arkansas, Whitehall, Augusta. When do you and the coaches begin to have a look at that pod and begin to scout for it?
Well, it's already happened today. We're already after that. We've played a couple of those teams already this year, but of course, that was early in the season. A lot of things change along the way. But yeah, that preparation has already begun. We've looked back at some of our notes and some of the game tape and things like that, and then try to see where they're playing, and maybe we can get a little bit more information on them. And hopefully we can bring a few things to the boys that they can take to the game that might help them just a little bit.
Miles Schmidgall, Jackson Tangley, Bryson Elkins go for about 30, 35 a game for you. Just tell us about that trio and how hard they are to defend.
Yeah, well, Miles and Jackson have had tremendous years. Obviously, coming back from last year, both got all conference honors in the Western Clover Belt, and we really needed them to step up their game, and I felt that they have done that very much. Bryson Elkins has been a nice addition for us. He's a sophomore. He came off a football injury. He was our quarterback in football, and so it took him a while to get into the flow of things here. And but he comes off the bench, gives us a spark, and gives us the ability to hopefully put some more points on the board. And his athletic ability sure helps us on the floor.
Coach, I've got Dan Ross here with me. He has enjoyed watching your team on our All Access. And thank you, by the way, for allowing Dan allowing our cameras inside of your team. I know Dan's got a couple questions for you.
Yeah, my first question deals with that. How has the process been? How has it been received by not just the kids on the team, but the family and the community altogether?
Well, I think it's been a real positive. Any time that you can highlight your team, your program, and what we've done in Fall Creek, I think it's very much a positive. It really hasn't affected practice at all or any of those things. It gets the kids into an environment where this is pretty special and it's important. And so I think it's been a really good thing all the way around. It makes our program very transparent, what we're trying to do. And then, of course, into game nights and those different things. It makes it very exciting for us, cricket land, and everybody else that watches our games.
Yeah, and if it's anything like we've seen in the past, you will ask us to come back and we'll have to politely say no. We're going to try to share the wealth with that. But yeah, I have seen the first practice or two, everyone's kind of nervous and scared of the cameras, and then you just get used to it as you go. But would you agree that it's been a really positive experience, though, for everybody involved?
Oh, I think it has, yes. And, we like to get the kids, whether it's the interviews with them or different things. I think it's a really good process to have them speak on behalf of what's happening with the team and the program and games coming up. I just think it's a really good for maturity and for our program for its entirety. So I want to thank you very much for considering us and to having Fall Creek be a part of that this year.
Yeah. We are in the media, so, we don't have to worry about looking past teams and stuff. But, man, I am really cheering for a Fall Creek Regis game, round 3. I think that'd be fantastic for the viewers of the game. I'm sure that you'd love to see, like, Spring Valley, the 11 seed, make it to you or something. But the season's not over yet. Tell me about the Clover Belt crossover coming up. Do you know who you're going to be playing yet? And walk us through what it's like to have that opportunity at the end of the season.
Yeah, in fact, we actually have 2 regular season games to go. And Tuesday night, we had to make a switch on it. Tuesday night, we're playing the number 1 seed out of the North Sectional in Colfax on their home floor. So that's a really good prep for that. They got the number 1 seed for a reason. They're a good ball club. And then, of course, Saturday, we go to the Clover Belt crossover. Because of the way the tiebreakers are, we're going to play for second place. It came down to halves led, like the 3rd or 4th tiebreaker in there with us and Regis, since we dropped that 2-point game here at home. And so we're going to play for second. We're going to play a loyal team, which is really good. I believe they're ranked 4th in D5, and with only 1 loss on the year, it gives a real tournament atmosphere when we were playing in that game against a really good quality opponent. Let's see what we can do there, how our kids will react, and if we happen not to play well in that game, well, we've hopefully got a little bit of time that we can adjust and make changes. If we do play well, maybe it's a good taste in our mouth going into the playoffs that, hey, we can play with these types of teams, and let's get after it. So we really enjoy going into what we call Championship Saturday and playing that crossover game in the Clover Belt.
One more quick one for you, Coach. You were probably nervous coming into today, knowing between you and Regis who would be number 1. But not getting into that, but just looking big picture, how much more at ease is it to sit back and wait for the results instead of having to go to a meeting with Regis in the room and you guys trying to argue back and forth between you two about who should be number 1?
Yeah, I do like, on that behalf, Dan, I like the electronic seating because I've been at this for many years. This is my 27th year as head boys coach here in Fall Creek, and I think I've seen it all in those seating meetings of a lot of politics that go on. I don't know if Regis and I would have argued too much. Coach Miller, in fact, Coach Miller was a player. I was coaching against him and in years gone by. So we have a very healthy respect for each other and our programs and our teams. So we thought that we would be in the possibility of a 1 or 2, how it was going to fall out. So it is what it is. If we would have been number 2, we wouldn't have argued about it one bit because Regis is an outstanding team and they've proven that all year as well. So I think it turned out, obviously, I don't know how it all broke down, but we won't argue with how it came out today.
Comparatively speaking, you had a pretty good lead. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, thank you.
Coach, you and I will go to lunch after the season. I'll show you all about it.
Okay.
All right. Fall Creek, the Crickets head to the playoff floor Friday, March 6th at home. They will take on the winner of 9 Mondovi and 8 Melrose Mindoro. Coach Rick Storlie, best of luck come playoffs.
Boy, thank you very much, Jason. We appreciate that so much, and thank you for covering high school basketball. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach. All right, and we move on now. Here, this is what Dan's been waiting for all day long, maybe all week long. Is we're going to stay in Division 4, but we're going to jostle around a bit. And as soon as Coach Adam Jacobson gets all his systems configured, I'm going to go take a 10-minute break because I have no place in this conversation at all. As the Marathon Red Raiders, they're the number 1 seed in their group. Dan, I said when we started the show, number 1 seed, conference champ, number 2 seed, and we get all the best coaches all around the state of Wisconsin. Coach Adam Jacobson, do you hear us?
I hear you. Do you hear me?
There we go. Yep, we can hear you. I just got done telling Dan I've got nothing to say in this conversation. You and Dan can take it from here. Dan Ross, I give you Adam Jacobson.
I talk to Coach Jacobson 2-3 times a week after wins. I don't have a lot of questions for him, but what I will say, it has been a pleasure being around your team, and I think I have a unique perspective. And you hear this from coaches all the time, but I have a unique perspective of talking to the kids, talking to the fans, and seeing how the kids interact with their peers and with their elders. And more than anything else, I am more impressed with with your kids off the court than I am even on the court. We're talking about a 21-1 team this year.
Yeah, appreciate that. We appreciate all the coverage and the support. And Dan's been around our program a number of years now, and we're thankful and appreciative. We have great kids. They work hard. We just had a middle school tournament yesterday, and half the varsity was there watching the middle school. And I know when we play a lot of our games, most of the middle school is there. So they just a lot of pride in it, and we're proud of the body of work we've had this season, and hopefully we can play our best here as we finish up with 2 nice road games going into the playoffs, which is great, at Stratford and at Edgar this week. And then get down to it. And, it's now your body of work really doesn't mean anything. It's how you play on these given nights. And now we know our path and are excited to get rolling.
So speaking of the Stratford Tigers, a little bit different of a team with Vanderhoof back. It wasn't that close the first time, but it will be closer tomorrow night. I guarantee it. But going into a game like this, where you know that there's a potential that you will see them in the regional final, correct?
Mhm.
Do you change the game plan, or do you give them what you are and just go with it?
Yeah, we've played obviously Stratford in a lot of big games. I know it's Coach Jorgensen's first year, but they play a similar style, and we are who we are. I think there's a lot to learn, especially now. I mean, they're a completely different basketball team than when we played them in early January. So, you're going to be on their home floor. So, we're going to learn a lot from that. I was listening to the seeding show, and I know Travis Wilson mentioned something about the Badger Conference, where there were like 4 games this year where it was a 40-point one way, and then the team won the next time. So, it's that night. We want to play well. We want to play consistent. So we're gonna go out there and be us and see how the game goes, and I'm sure coach is going to be the same way, and then learn a lot from that, because there's no guarantees. You're going to get to that matchup, right? Colby, if they get by Phillips, they took us to the brink 2 years ago, when we had a really nice team, and they took Auburndale to overtime. So they're not your typical 8 or 9 seed. I know their record isn't necessarily where they want it to be, but they've played a lot of teams tough in a wonderful league. Fleischman's as good of a player as we've played against this year. You can't take anything for granted. We want to go out there, play very well this week, so we have a lot of confidence going into March.
Yeah, and Marathon is a rabid basketball fan base, more than any other small town than I know in Wisconsin. How do the fans help fuel you and the team?
Yeah, we're very fortunate. You guys know this. You're in a lot of gyms. You wonder, does some of the streaming and stuff take away from the fan base? And not at all in Marathon. We're very, very fortunate. Our student section comes out. It's been a buzz this winter. Our wrestling's going to Team State for the first time in history, sending 6 individual wrestlers. Our girls basketball won the league title for the first time in 8 years, and are going to hopefully host a couple of regionals this week. It's just an exciting time to be a Red Raider, and we want to ride this out together as long as we can. And like we tell our guys, if the word pressure comes out, it's a privilege, right? I mean, people care, people are passionate, people want to see you succeed. That's a wonderful thing. And I know our kids are excited for the moment.
One more question for you from me, Coach. You mentioned that you have 2 road games this week at Stratford, at Edgar. And talking to you after the last game, you said that Thursday night is going to be the Super Bowl for Edgar for the most part, right? Yeah. And I've thought about that a little bit. What would it mean to you and the kids to win both games this week and finish 16-0 in the Marewood this year?
Yeah, you, like we've talked about, your goal is to win the game in front of you, but I'd be lying if the kids, there's only one possible team in the whole Marewood that can do that any year, right? Because of the crossover and all that. And our guys take a lot of pride in that, especially with the North being as good as it's been in a long, long time. And the South year in and year out is a tremendous league. Yeah, there is motivation, right? So that's where the seeds are in the books. You have the conference title, but our kids want more. And I think that's exciting. I think that's a wonderful motivation to practice this evening and to go to Stratford. And yeah, I'd be lying if it said didn't mean something. Yeah, they want to finish this thing up.
Coach Jason here. I'll send us on home with this one. I look at the 1 seeds across Division 4: Colfax, Fall Creek, Kewanee, Lomira, Darlington, Howards Grove, Milwaukee, Juneau, Marathon. According to the seed scores, Marathon is Kewanee is the number one. Marathon Red Raiders are the number 2 according to the math. How does that wash over you?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being completely honest with you, Milwaukee Juneau is probably the best team in Division 4, regardless of the math, right? Like we said, we try to challenge ourselves in and out of the league. I think at some point this season, we played 6 ranked teams, or that were ranked at some point this season. So we want to challenge ourselves this summer. We go to different areas. We've played Reedsville, we've played Iola, we've played Lomira. But you just got to play that game in front of you, and hopefully you have an opportunity to see one of those big dogs on the other side. We know that half is highly touted and highly talked about, and if you're fortunate to get there, you only have to play one. But we just want to do whatever we can, and like we've talked about, you want to punch a ticket to the dance, and and hopefully we have that opportunity. But that stuff will sort itself out. But D4 is a very, very tough division, just because of those number ones you rattled off, and but Milwaukee Juneau is the top, and you just would love an opportunity to compete.
Yeah, and that opportunity, if it were to happen for Marathon, would have to come at the Kohl Center against Milwaukee Juneau. But before all that, Coach, the Red Raiders will take to the playoff floor on Friday, March 6th. You'll take on the winner of number 8 Colby and number 9 Phillips. Coach, best of luck.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the coverage.
All right, and we're gonna bring this big old ship on home here, Dan. Wow, what a show it's been today.
Yeah, Coach Jacobson. We laugh about this, right? Because Coach Jacobson is like, you will find him in a random high school gym if there's a basketball game going on, right? Even if it has very little to do with the playoffs or anything like that. And talking to him, much like most coaches, can rattle off the starting 5 and the first 2 or 3 off the bench for 40 teams in the area. Like, it's insane.
We had just wrapped up Division 4, where Kewanee is the number one. We move now to Division 5, and the Reedsville Panthers are the number one seed. Coach Ron Prochnow, congratulations. What a season it's been for your boys so far.
Thank you. It's been very special so far, and we'll just kind of see how far this takes us.
Well, we're going to find out, right, in just a little while. But such a good year. I guess how do you kind of summarize, if you were to this point, how do you summarize where things have been and where you still want to go this season?
It's been very competitive for the most part. I think our schedule has been highly competitive for a Division 5 school. It started way back when these guys were little. Obviously I have 2 sons on the team, so I've been coaching some of these guys since 2nd or 3rd grade. It made for great relationships because I've known these kids and their parents for so long that we're all kind of on the same page. And in terms of this season, I think it started in the summer. We went to the event in Appleton. Mark Miller had us with Marathon, Lomira, Winneconne, and Iola Scandinavia. That was our bracket. I would say that's a pretty good bracket to play in for a Division 5 school. We kind of held our own. We went 2-2, and we kind of saw, hey, we're going to be all right. And just keep battling, keep working, and take each game as it comes.
I take a look at your last couple of games. St. Mary Catholic, a really good basketball team. You're able to get by them. Lost to Oostburg the game before. So just tell us about just those 2 games in particular and how those help round out your team into playoff shape.
Well, incredibly competitive, great teams. Both were ranked at the time in Divisions 3 or 4. Oostburg, it was a handful matchup, and I knew that going in. JJ Zvachin scored over 2,000 points. We didn't really have an answer for a 2,000-point scorer. We did our best, and we actually had a 1-point lead at some point in the second half. We were up by 1. It doesn't look like that at the final score, but I thought we battled hard down there playing those guys. St. Mary Catholic, we were playing for a share of the conference title. We haven't had a conference title since 2022, which is a while ago now. And by beating them the other night at home, we at least get a share. We still got more to do on Thursday when Manitowoc Lutheran comes, but I'm excited that we at least got that done. And we'll take Thursday as it comes.
Playoffs for you start on Tuesday, March 3rd. You'll take on Gillett as the 16 seed. Gillett, Coach, is nowhere near you. So how do you go about finding out more about Gillett and getting prepared for that game?
Yeah, actually, Gillett 2 years ago was in the regional final. They played against Oshkosh Lords when we were playing regional final against Florence. So I had followed his team and program through that time. They had 3,000-point scorers, and in small schools, sometimes those guys graduate and leave, and you got to kind of start over, and that's what he's had to do. Good guy. He's been working hard with his kids. I've been watching film on him. I've been watching film on everybody. You know your 16-team bracket, and my wife would tell you, I'm not home. I'm here where I am right now in school in my little dungeon office, and I'm watching film till 9, 10 o'clock at night on anybody that I could possibly play at some point, and just doing my work to be as prepared as I can for these guys that I'm coaching. So Gillett, Yeah, I mean, that's part of what I spent today doing. We have Chilton tomorrow as a non-conference game, so I'm spending a lot of time on them, and I've been digging into Chilton, Gillett a little bit more as well. So,
Coach, my wife tells me don't be home, so we've maybe that works out
Same.
best for me. Dan, I know Dan's got a couple of questions for you. Dan, I saw you shaking your head about nowhere near Gillett. Nobody is near Gillett, right?
I have been to Gillett.
Yeah.
When I was coaching girls at Newman Catholic, Gillett, we played them in a sectional final. You were probably there,
Yeah.
and it's a good thing we went and saw them play. And it's a really big gym for this area that is there. Like the town has like 12 buildings, but the gym is really big and they pack it. It doesn't make any sense.
What do you have for Coach, Dan?
Yeah. So I'm very familiar with this sectional. It is a local one for us in central Wisconsin, but the other half of the bracket, right? And it's really interesting because usually the team that comes out of this is a team that doesn't have a very good record, because of whether it's the Packerland or your conference, of a team that plays up, right? You play Division 4 teams, some Division 3 teams. And so sometimes it's GB New Lutheran or it's Sevastopol or these teams that generally could be 9-14 or something when they come out and they run roughshod through this sectional. How much of an advantage is it to play in a Division 5 tournament knowing that you're playing Division 3, Division 4 teams all the time?
well, first of all, your backdrop is way cooler than mine with Miss Pac-Man and what you got going on. I just got this locker. That is awesome what you got going on there. So awesome. In terms of the question, every game still starts 0-0. So yeah, we're being prepared by all these things, but we're going to show up at a game, and it's not like you get a 20-point advantage just by starting and being maybe better than somebody. You got to go earn it and get it done. I will say we are battle tested with a lot, but there's always things that can happen. You know, we had a guy miss a week for illness, which didn't help us. We've had a couple of kids gone from injury, and you don't know what's going to happen. So you got to prepare for every scenario, and then just take it one at a time. I hope our schedule works to our advantage, that we get into the game that we're getting in or wherever we go. We've already seen this, or we've seen a JJ Zavachin. We've seen St. Mary Catholic, who's got every guy that can shoot, 5 guys out there that can all shoot the ball. And so who do you not guard? You know, that's the questions you got to come up with and answer. So hopefully we're tested with everything and we'll be prepared and ready to go.
One last question for you, Coach. Is there anybody in your sectional that people probably don't know and they just look at the seed numbers and they don't know up from down, that you think is a scary double-digit seed or a lower seed where you're like, yeah, they're much better than what their seed is?
That's a hard question to try to single somebody out. What I can say is we have 3 teams from our conference in our bracket, in us, Elkhart Lake, and Hilbert. And Elkhart Lake's only losses are the conference games. They've won all their outside leagues games. And I think they fly under the radar that way because they're playing against the Division 4s, and they're complicated games for a smaller public Division 5 school. And Hilbert's come a long ways with where they are too. In terms of the lower seed, I haven't looked too far at all of that. I kind of am a one game at a time guy. I'm on Chilton, I'm on Manitowoc Lutheran, I'm on Gillett, and that's kind of where I am right now. And I don't let myself get too far ahead because none of that matters at that point.
Yeah, for people that don't that aren't that familiar, but say they're familiar with Division 4 or local Division 5 here, you are playing teams in Manitowoc Lutheran that beat Bonduelle, right?
Yes.
That won a silver ball last year, and they have plans of going there again. Just because you're Division 5 doesn't mean that it's not good basketball. You're playing against teams that have beaten the best teams that are at least ancillary to our area. It's really good basketball. You're doing a terrific job there, Coach.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, our game with Kickapoo is kind of I don't know, I won't say a wake-up call, but that was an awesome matchup. I mean, we were both ranked really highly. I think we had one loss combined going into that game, and they gave us their best shot. We gave them our best shot. That was like a playoff preview atmosphere preparation. How do you stop a really good team like a month ago? So I think that probably helped us, and I'm sure it helped them to some degree too.
I've had Kickapoo and Reedsburg or Reedsville 1 and 2 on my poll almost the entire season.
Yeah, I mean it's they're really good too, and there's a lot. There's a handful of Division 5 teams that are really good, and there's some in the other half of our bracket as well. I mean, I know they've been talked about. I haven't focused on them. I've watched, like I said, I've watched film on everybody, but I haven't really focused on that because that's not on our schedule at this point. It's just what's in front of us right now.
Coach, you might think Dan's backdrop is visually appealing, but anybody like us that's been around sports our entire life, we know what your backdrop smells like.
It's true.
With the
Yeah,
lockers.
it gets worse when the kids are here too. Trust me, this is classic Phi Ed teacher right here. I'll tell you that.
That's my comfort zone though. In there, that's where I belong too, and that's why my wife tells me to get out of here. Yeah, if not a question, just for our audience here, and we'll let Coach go and tell him to have a good day. But if chalk holds, this one's really interesting. Reedsville, the 1. You mentioned Elkhart Lake in the conference there, the 2. That'd be a sectional semifinal if chalk holds. And then you got undefeated Tigerton sitting in a sectional final. There is nothing easy. This is going to be premium basketball in this part of the section come tournament time. And as I said at the top, Coach, it all starts for your Panthers at home on Tuesday, March 3rd. Get to the gym and watch these guys play. They're really good. Coach, best of luck this year.
Yes, I appreciate having us today, and thanks, and go Panthers.
All right, I like that a little.
Yeah,
go Panthers at the end. That's my favorite. Okay,
we should do a prediction show. Doesn't have to be today or anything, but we should have a show where we try to predict this, so that people can come back to us and be like, "You guys know nothing."
Me and you to predict it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, thank you on that. But I thought what might be more fun though is just to open up this call to the public and just have people just drop in left and right with their predictions, and then yeah. All right. Well, what a show again. Thanks again to all of our coaches for appearing today. They had probably much better things to do, but they decided to be entertained by me and Dan today. Matt Lindsey, Chris Fischer, Jake Schalow, Ryan Bowers, Joe Konieczny, Alex Lavine, Dave Mlachnik, Rick Storlie, Adam Jacobson, Ron Prochnow. Holy cow. Really good basketball, Dan, coming up come playoff time.
Yeah. Thanks to all the coaches. It's going to be a heck of a couple weeks here.
Go Sports.
Sports!